Dreamscaper at this moment is in the middle of its Kickstarter campaign, which they have definitely have hit their goal, and congratulations to them. And we had a chance to play the demo that they put out on stream, and you'll find a link to it in the Kickstarter down below. But what we have here is a self-titled Binding of Isaac-like, which that, as we all know, got my attention almost immediately. And the game is kind of designing itself around that same kind of gameplay loop of persistent unlocks, which are then applied to subsequent runs. And the better you are at the game, the less persistence you're going to need to get through it. Now, where Dreamscaper kind of goes in a different direction is kind of with both the story and style. The game makes use of the Unreal Engine to give that kind of crisp, almost, AAA style and aesthetic to it. The story is that we play a woman who every night has nightmares that just so happen to take the form of a roguelike playthrough. Which, if we think about it, I should probably have more of those myself, considering all the roguelikes we've played on the channel. But through the demo, we couldn't see a lot of some of the deeper meanings of the story, but the Kickstarter describes it as kind of her battling depression and anxiety and other issues through her nightmares. Now, the game space is entirely procedurally generated. Each level is its own biome. This footage right here is kind of like a snowy mountain town, maybe where she grew up, and you'll see the second biome in a few minutes. But the general gameplay is that you're going to be moving from room to room, and you're able to teleport back to rooms you've been to, clearing them out and getting the resources and items that you need in order to make it to the next level. You start out with a shield, a melee, and a ranged weapon. And as you saw right there, I was able to kind of parry or repose with the shield. There's also a loose kind of button combo to your melee attacks. When you attack, your character will flash white for a second, and if you time the attack accordingly, you'll do more damage. Now, from what I played, the gear itself is going to be hard-coded in terms of the basic foundation. So you get a sword, a baseball bat, there's laser eyes at some point, but there's different rarities, and those rarities will add different modifiers or passives to that weapon. It could give it freezing damage, could give you lifesteal, fire, and feels very Diablo-esque or ARPG design. Now, one thing that is kind of interesting about Dreamscaper is that while you explore the map, you may even come across puzzles that will kind of test your critical thinking skill in the midst of playing an action roguelike. Now, where the Binding of Isaac elements come in is that as you play through the game, you'll get kind of like the game's quote-unquote premium currency. And this is earned by beating enemies and getting through the various biomes, which in turn, you use it here after a failed or successful run to unlock new items and so on that will appear in subsequent plays. And again, these items will provide you with different functionalities, and they'll add more to the diversity that you'll find during a play. Now, while the game certainly hits all those same elements of the Binding of Isaac, from the demo that we played, I don't think it quite has the moment-to-moment gameplay that made the Binding of Isaac work so well. Now again, keep in mind that we're playing a demo of a game that's still getting its Kickstarter funding, so we can't go too deep into this one, but when we come back after our quick Patreon supporter and sponsor shoutout, we're going to talk a little bit about kind of what I hope the developers work on now that they have succeeded in their Kickstarter. And now a quick shout out to our current Game Wisdom sponsors and Patreon supporters. Thank you so much, and if you'd like to continue this discussion on game design, be sure to check out our Discord channel, linked down below. At the moment, Dreamscaper definitely has or shows a lot of promise in terms of its roguelike design, but it's not without, I think, missing some of the long form or kind of the persistent layer that made the Binding of Isaac work so well. Now again, keep in mind this is a demo, so I'm sure they have more things planned, but I do hope we see more in terms of kind of growing the moment-to-moment gameplay out. At the moment, the two biomes don't necessarily change or really show that much in terms of diversity. Likewise, the items and options that you pick up feel like they're more about just like throwing random things into the game than really giving you legitimately different ways of playing, similar to something like Dead Cells, or even some of the more insane items of the Biome Isaac. You do get various resources, bombs, keys, again, the same Biome Isaac like they described in the first part, but the overall levels themselves don't really seem to lend themselves towards a huge variety of tactics. Using your boxing gloves kind of plays the same way as you would use a sword or a spear. One ranged weapon kind of plays a lot like the other ones. The game also runs into kind of some similar issues in terms of level generation. While it certainly does look nice, the various rooms don't really stand out from a gameplay point of view, and that's just kind of the nature of procedural generation. The Biome Isaac gets away with it by the fact that the rooms themselves were all handmade, and there's just so many of them that it's almost impossible to get duplicates in a single run. Here, due to kind of the more detailed graphics, it all kind of starts to blur together. Now, in the last part, I mentioned, of course, the fact that there is the whole puzzle mechanic, and that's going to be one I'm really curious to see if it kind of survives the cutting room floor, because it's such an odd thing to have in an action roguelike. Now, other than that, the one thing we did not get a chance to test that's in this game are the equipment modifiers. The game on the UI shows you can wear or unlock different gear that I'm assuming is kind of like the passive items in the Biome Isaac, that they may change your gameplay in some way, shape, or form. But again, without being able to see them, we can't really comment on it right now. In terms of difficulty, the game kind of runs into a similar issue that Dark Souls or Souls-likes have, that it's very hard at the moment to fight multiple enemies. You do get kind of a lucid power, you do get spells that can also kind of, tilt things in your favor. But similar to something like Dead Cells, your tactics and general play are going to be entirely up to RNG. One of the things that we like about the Biome Isaac, and even something like Enter the Gungeon, was the fact that your basic abilities were good enough that while the various items and unlocks do help, a good player can make lemonade out of lemons. Not so much from what we played of Dreamscaper. The issue is that because gear both has rarity as well as higher variants or classes to it, you're going to find very quickly that if you can't get a higher class weapon or a higher class range, you're going to be kind of behind the 8-ball. And that is definitely seen at the boss fights of the game, which I think at the moment are biome locked. But as you're going to see in the next few seconds, this guy is going to tear into me very quickly, and this was one of those runs that was going really well too. The bosses seem to be kind of a fixed pattern, which was similar to the Biome Isaac, but this one felt like you can only really safely hurt them at specific points. And I don't know what their kind of overall intention is going to be for boss philosophy going forward. Each boss is supposed to be representing of a kind of element of our main character's depression, which is a nice touch. But again, when you throw in a hard boss, combined with the RNG of gear, you can run into frustration, as we saw with Dead Cells, where the boss's difficulty is not so much on the player's skill point, but based on what gear they had. And for fans who watched me play, you can really see the difference in having the right gear for a boss versus struggling against it. But with all that said, there is still plenty of time to see how Dreamscaper develops, and especially, as we said earlier, that the Kickstarter has met its funding. So congratulations again to the developer for getting that, and I'm looking forward to seeing how this game develops. Because at this point, as we've said, all you have to say is Binding of Isaac-like, and my ears perk up like some kind of Pavlovian bell. But with that said, I would like to thank developers for getting in touch. Again, if you're interested in the game, I'll include a link to the Kickstarter, which you'll find a demo, I believe, in that description. And if you'd like me to tackle your game in the future, please don't hesitate to get in touch. But check back for daily discussions on game design here and on Game Wisdom, where we examine the art and science of games. Once again, this has been Dreamscaper, and I will see you all next time. If you're looking for a book on design, my first title, 20 Essential Games to Study, is out now. It is available where most books are sold, and it comes in paper, hardcover, or digital copies. This is the perfect book for anyone interested in learning about game design, whether you are a student, enthusiast, or just a fan. Thanks for watching the video. If you enjoyed things, be sure to do all the liking and subscribing that the kids are doing these days. Check out our Discord channel link down below where we hang out and chat game design, and come back later tonight for our regular streamings. But that's it, and tune in for more great content here and on Game Wisdom, where we examine the art and science of games.